Hello and welcome to Passing the Torch with Bob Clark, your host and teacher. Today we're continuing our series on Bible Bytes that make you go, Today we're talking about the day the Ark rested. So let's read in the Bible, Genesis chapter 8, first 4 verses. We'll skip some of this. Then God remembered Noah. It's not like he forgot him. It's just a sort of a literary device to say that God remembered Noah. And the waters receded continually from the earth. So the waters dried up. This is Noah's flood, right? Then the ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. Now, a lot of people get into, well, where's, Mount Ararat? Well, where's the ark? That's not my issue today. It's, why did he tell us the date? Why did he tell us it's the 17th day of the 7th month? That's one of those questions, those why questions, that makes you go and dig deeper. So let's look at the Hebrew calendar. We have the months of Tishri. Forgive my pronunciation. Tishri, Yeshuan, Chislev, Tebeth, Shabbat, Adar, Nisan, which used to be called Abib, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, and Elul. All right, so the month of Nisan is March-April type time frame. Oh, it's the 7th month. That's interesting. There's actually 2 different calendars in the Hebrew calendar. In one that's called the civil calendar, it's the 7th month. But in the, quote, sacred calendar, it's turned around by 6 months. That would become the 1st month. There are 7 feasts of Moses. There's 3 of the major feasts that require all Jewish males to travel to the temple. So let's look at these feasts. There's the Feast of Trumpets, also called Rosh Hashanah, which is the 1st of Tishri. There's the Day of Atonement. You've heard of that, Yom Kippur. It's the 10th of Tishri. And the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, which is the 15th through 22nd of Tishri. Okay, that's one of those 3 feasts that require all men, Jewish males, to travel to the temple. Then we have another group of feasts, group of 3 feasts, which is Passover, or Pesach, which is 14th of Nisan, which I think I misspelled there with 2 S's. Then there's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is one of those where everybody has to come. So that is, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is the 15th through 21st of Nisan. So it's Passover's the 14th. Feast of Unleavened Bread starts the next day. Then there's the Feast of First Fruits, which is the day after Sabbath. That's Saturday. After the first day of unleavened bread. Sounds complicated. Then there's the Feast of Weeks, which is, we call it Pentecost, or Shavuot, which is the 6th of Sivan. All right, so why does any of this matter? Because the 17th day of the 7th month, that would be the 17th of Nisan. That fits into these feast days. Well, when was Jesus crucified? A lot of discussion over that. This has been messed up for 1,000+ years because of not understanding the Hebrew religion and the feasts. So it says in Matthew 12:40, Jesus says, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Okay, let me stop a moment here. Jesus says that he will be buried for 3 days and 3 nights. But yet, religion has taught us for all this time, Jesus was crucified on Friday. That is Good Friday. He was put in the tomb, and, well, you got to count that as day 1. Okay, I'll give you that. I don't believe it, but I'll give you that. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You got to count all 3 of those days. But it says 3 days and 3 nights. There's Friday night and Saturday night. That's 2 nights. So did Jesus lie, or did a bunch of religious people mess up Jesus' crucifixion day? I vote for the second. So what really happened? Okay, here's a picture of laying out these days and nights. So we know that with the Jewish calendar, the way they count days is it goes evening, and so their day starts at sundown to the next sundown. How about that? All right? So let's look at Jesus' actions on his last week, or the last week on earth here, the last week during which he was crucified. How about that? So on what we would call Saturday, all right, that's the day part of that is the 9th of Nisan. The night is the 10th of Nisan. All right. The next day, the day part is still the 10th of Nisan. That's when Jesus rides into Jerusalem on the donkey. That's Palm Sunday. All right. The 10th of Nisan is when the Jewish people were supposed to pick their spotless lamb that was supposed to be slaughtered on Pesach, on Passover. But he was picked on the 10th of Nisan. Some of this start to add together. All right, so the next day, Jesus curses the fig tree. He overturns the tables in the temple. The next day, the disciples come back and they find that the fig tree is withered. We have all of that discourse, if you know what I'm talking about. Now then, the next day, during the day is the 13th, this is Wednesday, the 13th of Nisan. Starting that night is the 14th of Nisan. That's the Passover. So we have the Last Supper and the arrest in Gethsemane, the trial, all that was on Passover. It was on the evening and the night of Passover, 14th of Nisan. All right? So then the next day, that morning, we have the trial before Pilate. We have Jesus taking the stripes. We have the crucifixion. He is killed on the 14th of Nisan. Oh, by the way, the 14th of Nisan at 3 o'clock is when the lambs were supposed to be sacrificed for Passover. If you look in the Bible, you find out that's exactly when Jesus was crucified, or when he breathed his last, was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the same time that the lambs were being sacrificed, on the 14th of Nisan. So now let's count. All right, you've got that night, Thursday night, that's night 1. Friday night is night 2. Saturday night is night 3. I've got 3 nights, 3 days and 3 nights. And I get to Sunday for the resurrection. The resurrection on Sunday was on the 17th of Nisan, according to what was laid out in the book of Deuteronomy for the feasts of Moses. That was, in fact, the Feast of First Fruits. Jesus was the first fruits from the dead. Jesus was crucified on Passover, 14th of Nisan, not Thursday. That was on Thursday. The Passover is not a high holy day. That's another thing to point out. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's a high holy day, but not Passover itself. Let me rephrase that. High holy day, Shabbat. See, that's the reason that so many people got confused, is they said, well, Jesus, we have to get him down and put him in the grave before the Sabbath. There were 2 Sabbaths that week. Yes, there was the weekly Saturday Sabbath, but the Feast of Unleavened Bread is also a Sabbath, a Shabbat. That was on Thursday. They were trying to get him in the grave before the Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of Unleavened Bread on Friday. He had to be in the ground before that Sabbath. There were 2 Sabbaths. He had to be in the ground before the Feast of Unleavened Bread. resurrection on Sunday morning was on the 17th of Nisan, which brings us back to, why did they tell us that the ark rested on the 17th day of the 7th month? Because the date of the first day of the rest of Noah's life was the same date as the first day of the rest of our lives, which is the day that Jesus was resurrected. Is that cool or what? Bible bites that make you go, And with that, we will see you next time on Passing the Torch. So long.